Lyra stepped carefully through the thick, glowing jungle, her boots sinking slightly into the soft, spongy ground. The air was heavy with the sweet smell of alien flowers, and tiny lights flickered on the leaves like stars caught in the trees. Her team had been exploring this strange planet for weeks, studying its creatures and plants, but nothing had prepared them for the sounds they heard that morning. A low, deep roar shook the air and Lyra froze. The sound was nothing like the calls of any animal she had ever heard on Earth. It was loud, powerful, and full of anger. The other explorers whispered nervously behind her, their hands gripping their scanning tools and weapons. But Lyra's curiosity grew stronger than her fear. "Did you hear that?" whispered one of her teammates, his voice trembling. "That thing could tear us apart." Lyra nodded, but she didn't step back. Her eyes scanned the dense jungle looking for movement. Then she saw it. Through the thick, glowing vines, a shadow moved. A massive creature emerged, its scales a dull gray with streaks of silver that glinted in the light. Its eyes were yellow and sharp, full of wild intelligence and hunger. Its wings were folded against its back, and its long tail dragged over the ground, knocking over small plants. It was a dragon predator just like the old legend said, but bigger, stronger, and scarier than anyone could imagine. Lyra's heart pounded in her chest. She could see the muscles under its scales, the way it sniffed the air, and the way it limped slightly as it moved. Something was wrong. "Look at its leg," Lyra whispered. "It's hurt." Her team shook their heads. "Stay back, Lyra," one of them shouted. "Don't go near it." But Lyra felt something else. She didn't see a monster, she saw pain. The dragon's massive nostrils flared as it sniffed the ground, and a thin line of blood ran from one of them. She could see a thorn, sharp and dark, stuck deep inside. The creature was angry, yes, but it was also suffering. Lyra took a slow step forward. "It's hurt," she said softly. "I can help." Her teammate grabbed her arm. "Are you crazy? That thing could crush you in one bite." "I know," Lyra replied, her eyes never leaving the dragon. "But I have to try." She moved slowly, keeping her hands open and her voice calm. The dragon watched her, its tail twitching, its eyes narrowing. It let out a low growl, but it didn't attack. Lyra knelt a few feet away, staying very still, and spoke in the softest voice she could manage. "I won't hurt you," she whispered. "I just want to help." The dragon sniffed the air, its chest heaving. Lyra could feel the heat from its body, smell the smoke-like scent of its scales, and hear the shallow breaths that came with every step. She inched closer, careful not to make sudden movements. The thorn was right there, sticking out slightly from the edge of its nostril. Lyra's hands trembled a little, but she forced herself to stay steady. She had done things like this before with small animals on Earth, but nothing like this. Nothing this big, this alive, this powerful. She reached out slowly, her fingers hovering just above the thorn. The dragon's eyes followed her every move, and its growl grew louder. "Easy," she whispered, moving even slower. "I'm not going to hurt you." Finally, her fingers touched the thorn. It was sharp and jagged. She pulled it out carefully, and the dragon flinched, letting out a loud roar that shook the leaves above her. For a moment, Lyra thought it would strike, but it didn't. Instead, the dragon froze, its massive head tilting slightly as if it were trying to understand what just happened. Lyra stepped back, keeping her hands visible. The dragon sniffed the air again, and the line of blood stopped. Slowly, it lowered its head closer to her, the growl fading into a soft rumble. Lyra could feel its warm breath on her face, but she didn't move. She had never felt anything like this before. Her teammates watched in shock, their fear slowly turning into awe. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. A human had approached a dragon predator, and it had not attacked. Instead, it seemed to trust her. Lyra smiled, a mix of relief and wonder flooding her chest. She had reached out and touched the pain of a creature far stronger and more dangerous than herself. And for the first time, the dragon's eyes softened, just a little, as if it knew that she had not come to fight, but to help. The jungle was quiet now, except for the soft hum of the alien plants and the steady breathing of the dragon. Lyra stood there, heart still racing, knowing that something extraordinary had just begun. Something that could change everything, for her, for the dragon, and maybe even for the entire planet. Lyra could feel her hands shaking slightly, but she forced herself to stay calm. The dragon's massive head hovered just above the ground, its golden eyes fixed on her. It breathed heavily, each exhale shaking the leaves around them. The thorn she had seen was deep inside its nostril, sharp and jagged, and it must have been hurting for a long time. She had never done anything like this before. If she made one wrong move, she could be crushed in an instant. Her teammates whispered behind her, fear clear in their voices. Lyra, step back. It's going to kill you, one of them yelled. But she didn't move. She knew they didn't understand. They only saw the size, the teeth, the claws. She saw something else, pain. And she believed she could help. Slowly, she knelt down on the soft, glowing moss, keeping her hands in view. The dragon lowered its head a little, growling low like a warning. Lyra spoke softly, her voice gentle, almost like a song. It's okay. I won't hurt you. I just want to help. The dragon blinked slowly, its sharp eyes following her every move. She noticed its nostrils flaring as it sniffed, the line of blood from the thorn still faintly visible. Lyra took a deep breath and inched closer, one hand outstretched. The dragon flinched but didn't strike. She froze when its long tail twitched suddenly, knocking a small branch to the side. Her heart raced. Easy, she whispered. I know it hurts. I can help. Her fingers hovered just above the thorn. It looked worse up close, dark, pointed, and wedged in the dragon's sensitive nose. She could feel the heat of the dragon's body, smell the smoke-like scent of its scales, and hear the deep thump of its heartbeat. The sheer power of the creature made her pulse quicken, but she did not step back. With slow, careful movements she touched the thorn. The dragon jerked its head slightly and let out a loud roar, shaking the ground beneath her. Lyra froze, holding the thorn lightly between her fingers. The roar was terrifying, but she held on. Her palms were sweaty, but her grip didn't falter. Then very slowly she pulled. The thorn came free with a soft, wet sound. The dragon flinched and let out another roar, louder this time, echoing through the jungle. Lyra's ears rang, but she did not move back. Instead, she held out her hand, open and calm, showing she meant no harm. The dragon froze. Its body shook slightly, but instead of attacking, it tilted its head, almost as if trying to understand what had just happened. The blood in its nostrils stopped, and its breathing became steadier. Lyra's heart pounded with a mixture of relief and disbelief. She had done it. She had touched the pain of a creature far stronger and more dangerous than herself, and it had not killed her. Her teammates could hardly believe their eyes. One whispered, I can't believe it. She actually did it. She touched it. Lyra smiled softly, her fear melting into awe. She reached out her other hand gently, brushing a stray scale near the dragon's jaw. It flinched, but she kept her voice calm. I'm not going to hurt you. You're safe. For a long moment, neither moved. The dragon sniffed her hand, then exhaled a long, low breath that shook the moss around them. Its eyes, golden and fierce, softened just slightly. Lyra felt a strange warmth in her chest, as if the dragon was acknowledging her courage. It had never experienced someone approaching it without fear, or with such care. Then, slowly, the dragon lowered its head closer to her, and Lyra stayed perfectly still. She could feel the heat of its nostrils, the faint twitch of its massive wings, and the slow rise and fall of its chest. The air around them seemed to hum, as if the jungle itself was holding its breath. Lyra realized something incredible. The dragon was not just a predator, it was intelligent, aware, and capable of trust. She had never imagined such a bond was possible. And yet here it was. A dangerous, terrifying creature, willing to pause its instinct to attack because of her bravery and care. She took a small step back, keeping her hands visible. The dragon blinked slowly, then slowly turned its head to look at the rest of the team. Lyra noticed that it was not just watching her, it was watching all of them, judging, deciding. And then it did something unexpected. It let out a low, rumbling sound that was almost like a growl, but softer, almost grateful. Her teammates stared, speechless. They had never seen anything like this. A human had approached a dragon predator and not only survived but had made it stop, just by showing courage and kindness. Lyra took a deep breath, her legs stiff from kneeling. She smiled again, quietly to herself. She knew this moment would change everything. She had touched the dragon's pain, and in return she had earned its attention, its respect. And maybe, just maybe, she had started a bond that could last a lifetime. The jungle returned to its normal hum, the glowing plants swaying gently in the soft breeze. The dragon stepped back slightly, still watching her, its golden eyes never leaving her face. Lyra felt a shiver of excitement. This was only the beginning. Something extraordinary had started, something that no one had expected. After that first encounter, the jungle seemed different to Lyra. The glowing plants swayed gently as if watching her, and the air felt alive with possibility. The dragon predator, scarred and massive, had not attacked her or her team. Instead, it had paused, breathing heavily, golden eyes fixed on her as though trying to understand. Lyra knew something extraordinary had begun. Over the next few days, the dragon stayed nearby, usually hidden behind thick trees or tall, glowing ferns. It did not follow them openly, but Lyra could feel its presence, sometimes catching glimpses of a massive tail disappearing into the undergrowth or the shimmer of its silver-gray scales in the moonlight. She named it Ashen because of its gray, scarred body and the faint glow of silver along its wings. Lyra felt a strange connection to Ashen. Every time she walked through the jungle, she moved slowly, speaking softly, showing that she meant no harm. She realized that Ashen was watching her, learning her movements and even recognizing her voice. It was more intelligent than she could have imagined. It understood fear, caution, and courage. Could sense who was friend and who was threat. Her teammates were still nervous. "It's just a predator," one whispered as they set up camp near a glowing stream. "It could attack at any moment. Don't let your guard down, Lyra." "I know," Lyra replied softly. "But it's different. I can feel it. Ashen isn't just dangerous, it's aware. And it trusts me a little." The trust was fragile, but it was growing. One morning, while the team explored a narrow valley, they were suddenly ambushed by small alien hunters, creatures fast, vicious, and armed with sharp claws. The humans panicked, raising their scanning devices and weapons, but they were outnumbered. Lyra froze for a moment, heart pounding. Then she heard the low rumble behind her, a sound she had come to recognize. Ashen emerged from the trees, wings spread slightly, its golden eyes blazing. The hunters froze at the sight of the massive predator, unsure whether to attack or flee. Ashen roared, a sound so deep it shook the ground. The hunters scattered, some running into the forest, others pausing in fear. The dragon moved with a strange intelligence, herding the attackers away from Lyra and her team without striking too violently. It was as if Ashen understood that she was the reason it was there, that it was protecting her more than anything else. Lyra's teammates stared in awe. It's defending you," one whispered. "How is this possible?" She smiled, feeling a mixture of pride and relief. "It trusts me," she said. "It knows I wouldn't hurt it. And I think it understands me." From that day, Ashen became more visible. It began to follow the team openly, sometimes a few steps behind, sometimes hovering above in the shadows of tall trees. Lyra would often pause and kneel, offering a gentle hand or soft words. Ashen would lower its massive head slightly, letting her touch the scales along its snout or jaw. Each touch strengthened the bond between them, and Lyra felt her fear fading, replaced by respect and awe. The jungle itself seemed to respond to their bond. Animals that once ran at the first sound of humans now paused, sensing Ashen's presence. The alien plants seemed to shimmer more brightly when Lyra and Ashen were together. Other explorers on the team began to realize that humans were not just fragile creatures. They were capable of connection and courage that even predators could recognize. One evening, as the twin moons of the planet rose in the sky, Lyra sat by the glowing stream. Ashen lay nearby, massive wings folded, eyes half closed but still alert. Lyra reached out and touched a scar along Ashen's shoulder. The dragon flinched slightly at first, then relaxed under her hand. "You're not so scary," she whispered, smiling. "Not when I know your pain." Ashen let out a low rumble, almost like a sigh. Lyra had no words to describe what it felt like. An ancient, fierce intelligence paired with something like gratitude, maybe even respect. She realized then that the bond they were forming was rare, possibly the first of its kind. A human and a predator, united not by fear, not by dominance, but by trust and courage. Over the next few days the bond grew stronger. Ashen would nudge Lyra gently when she explored dangerous areas, almost as if warning her of unseen dangers. It would block paths when predators approached or hiss quietly when small alien creatures tried to get too close. Lyra's confidence grew with Ashen's protection. She felt braver, stronger, as if part of the dragon's power now flowed through her. Her teammates began to notice the change too. They saw that humans were not just fragile explorers in this dangerous world, they were creatures capable of forming bonds that could turn even a predator into an ally. Lyra had shown courage, yes, but more importantly she had shown empathy. And in return, Ashen had chosen to protect her. As the sun rose over the glowing jungle one morning, Lyra and Ashen stood side by side, watching the alien landscape stretch before them. She reached out and touched his massive head gently, feeling the heat of his scales and the steady rhythm of his breath. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" she whispered. Ashen's eyes met hers, golden and fierce, but calm. Lyra knew then that whatever dangers lay ahead, whatever threats they would face, the bond they had formed would stand. She had touched his pain, and in return, he had chosen to stand with her. Forever. Days passed, and Lyra's bond with Ashen grew stronger. The jungle that once felt threatening now seemed alive with possibilities. She could sense danger before it arrived and feel when the dragon was restless. But nothing could have prepared her for what was coming. One morning, as the team explored a narrow canyon, a loud roar echoed across the cliffs. The sound was different, angrier, more violent. From the shadows, a second group of dragon predators emerged, larger and fiercer than Ashen. Their eyes were red and wild, their teeth gleaming in the sunlight. They moved like a pack, hunting, circling the humans with clear intent. The team froze in fear. "We need to run," one of them shouted, panic in his voice. But Lyra stood her ground. She knew running could trigger the pack's chase instincts. She had to face this carefully with Ashen by her side. Ashen stepped forward, massive wings spreading slightly. The other dragons stopped, growling low, sniffing the air. Lyra held her hand out to Ashen. "We can do this together," she whispered. Ashen's eyes met hers, golden and calm. He understood. He would protect her, but he needed her courage too. The pack lunged suddenly, a blur of gray and red scales, claws scraping the rocks. The humans scattered, but Lyra stayed still. She remembered the first time she touched Ashen's pain, how she had faced fear and moved slowly. She focused, her heart steady. Ashen roared, a deep, earth-shaking sound. The pack hesitated, surprised by the force of the single dragon. Lyra stepped closer, keeping her hands visible. "We're not your enemies," she said softly, though her voice carried across the canyon. "We mean no harm." One of the dragons hissed, but Ashen moved forward, positioning himself between Lyra and the pack. He lowered his massive head and let out a warning growl. The pack froze again. Lyra took a slow step forward, showing them she was brave and unafraid. Suddenly, one of the hunters from the alien pack leaped toward Lyra. She froze for a moment, heart pounding, but Ashen reacted instantly. With a swipe of his tail, he knocked the creature aside, sending it crashing into the rocks. Lyra barely had time to breathe before Ashen turned his head toward the rest of the pack, letting out a roar that echoed through the canyon like thunder. The other dragons hissed and retreated a few steps. They were strong, fast, dangerous, but they were not prepared for a dragon protecting a human with such determination. Lyra realized something incredible. Her courage made Ashen braver too. Her fearlessness gave him focus and strength. She stepped forward again, raising her hands to show she meant no harm. "We don't want to fight," she said firmly. "But we won't run either. We stand together." Ashen's wings spread wider, and he stomped the ground with his massive feet. The sound vibrated through the canyon. The pack froze, unsure what to do. They had never faced a human who could inspire a dragon to protect them with such bravery. Then something amazing happened. The lead dragon of the pack lowered its head slightly, growling but hesitating. Ashen roared again, a warning and a challenge. The pack's leader sniffed the air, looking at Lyra, then at Ashen. Slowly, almost reluctantly, the pack began to retreat, slipping back into the shadows of the canyon. Lyra exhaled, feeling her knees weaken with relief. She knelt down, running a hand along Ashen's massive snout. "You did it," she whispered. "We did it together." Ashen nudged her gently with his head, a low rumble vibrating in his chest. Lyra could feel the power and intelligence behind that rumble. He understood that she had risked herself to show courage, that she had faced fear not with weapons but with empathy. And he respected her for it. The rest of the team slowly approached, still shaken but amazed. "I can't believe it," one whispered. "You didn't just survive, you commanded the dragon. And it saved us all." Lyra smiled, brushing her hair back from her face. "It wasn't me," she said softly. "It was him. He chose to protect me because I trusted him. Courage isn't just about fighting, it's about standing up, even when you're scared." Ashen lowered his massive body to the ground, allowing Lyra to rest her hand on his scales. The canyon was quiet now, the echoes of the pack fading into the distance. Lyra felt a surge of pride and wonder. She had faced a trial far greater than any human could have imagined, and together with Ashen, they had overcome it. That night, as the twin moons of the planet rose over the canyon, Lyra and Ashen sat side by side. She stroked his scales gently, feeling the warmth of his body and the steady beat of his heart. She knew this bond was unique, rare and powerful. Whatever dangers awaited them in this alien world, whatever threats they would face them together. Lyra had touched Ashen's pain and in return, he had sworn to protect her. Not just once but forever. The jungle around them seemed calmer now, as if the trial had changed the very air. Lyra closed her eyes, feeling the rhythm of Ashen's breathing and whispered, "We'll face anything together." And Ashen, the fierce predator of the alien jungle, let out a low, approving rumble, his golden eyes watching over her like a shield. The sun rose slowly over the glowing jungle, painting the alien trees in soft shades of gold and silver. Lyra stood on a small hill, looking down at the team as they packed up their equipment. For weeks, they had explored this planet, facing dangers that none of them had expected. And through it all, Ashen, the massive dragon predator, had stayed by her side. Lyra felt a deep sense of calm as she watched him. He rested near the edge of the hill, wings folded, eyes alert. The other humans still treated him with caution, but Lyra had learned that courage and trust could change everything. She reached out, letting her fingers brush along his rough, silver-gray scales. The dragon leaned into her touch, a soft rumble vibrating from his chest. "You've changed everything, Ashen," she whispered. "Not just for us but for everyone who comes here after us." Ashen's eyes met hers, golden and intelligent. He was no longer just a predator. He was a guardian, a protector, a symbol of something bigger than fear or violence. Lyra knew that humans had a place in this world, not because they were the strongest, but because they were brave and compassionate, capable of forming bonds that even the fiercest creatures could not ignore. The team gathered around, still amazed by what they had witnessed. "I've never seen anything like it," one of the explorers said quietly. "A human, controlling a dragon predator with just courage and care. We need to document this, everyone will want to know." Lyra smiled, shaking her head. "It's not about controlling him," she said softly. "It's about respect, about trust, and courage. He chose to protect me. I didn't force him. He saw my courage, my care, and he responded." Ashen let out a low rumble, almost as if agreeing. The jungle around them seemed to respond to his presence. Birds with shimmering feathers circled above, and small alien creatures peered from the trees without fear. Even the glowing plants seemed brighter, as if celebrating this bond between human and dragon. Weeks passed and the team explored further. But Lyra and Ashen's bond remained unbroken. Wherever she went, he followed, not as a pet or a weapon but as a guardian. He blocked dangerous paths when alien predators approached, nudged her away from unstable cliffs, and even helped her find rare plants for research. The humans around them began to understand something profound. Humans were not the weakest creatures in this alien world. They were small and fragile compared to dragons, predators, and dangerous flora, but they were courageous, clever, and empathetic. Lyra had shown them that bravery was not about strength alone. It was about taking risks for what you believed in, about showing care when fear screamed at you to run. And in return the universe responded. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the jungle, Lyra sat on a fallen log, Ashen lying beside her. She could feel the warmth of his scales, the slow, steady rise and fall of his chest, and the deep intelligence in his gaze. She remembered the first day she had pulled the thorn from his nostril, trembling with fear and hope. Now he was not just a dragon predator, he was her protector, her friend, and a symbol of human courage in a wild world. Lyra's thoughts drifted to the future. Explorers would come, scientists would study the jungle, and other humans might encounter Ashen. But she knew that the bond they shared was special. It was built on trust and courage, something no one could take away. And Ashen, fierce and powerful, would continue to protect her, and perhaps even guide others who were brave enough to reach out with empathy. As the moons reflected on the glowing plants, Lyra whispered, "We've shown them, haven't we? That humans are worth trusting, that courage matters, and that even the fiercest hearts can be touched by care." Ashen responded with a soft rumble, nudging her gently with his massive head. Lyra smiled, resting her hand on his jaw. "Forever," she said quietly. "You'll protect me forever, won't you?" The dragon's eyes glimmered, almost like a promise. He lowered his head slightly, a gesture of trust and loyalty. The jungle seemed to hold its breath, as if acknowledging the moment. For the first time, Lyra realized that humans could be more than survivors in a wild world. They could inspire, protect, and create bonds that no force of nature could break. Over the next few weeks, the team noticed a change in the jungle. Other predators avoided the areas Lyra and Ashen explored. Small creatures approached without fear. Even the glowing plants seemed more vibrant, as if recognizing the courage and trust between a human and a dragon. Lyra understood then that their bond had a ripple effect. Human courage had left its mark on the planet. Finally, the team prepared to leave the jungle. Lyra stood beside Ashen, feeling the weight of their adventures and the strength of their bond. She reached out, touching his massive head one last time before boarding the ship. Ashen let out a low, approving rumble, standing beside her as if to say he would always be there, watching, protecting, waiting for her return. The jungle faded into the distance as the ship lifted off. Lyra looked down at the planet below, glowing with light and life. She knew the bond she had formed with Ashen would live forever, not just in her heart but in the jungle itself. Humans had left their mark. Courage and empathy had conquered fear. And even the fiercest predator could be touched by a brave human's heart. Ashen lowered his massive head beside the ship's landing site, his golden eyes watching her until the ship disappeared into the sky. Lyra smiled, feeling warmth in her chest. She had touched the dragon's pain and in return he had chosen to protect her. Forever.